Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. And in today's video, we have this 2021 Kia Seltos, and we're going to do the front grille chrome delete installation for this vehicle. So as you can see, this is how it looks before doing the installation on the front grille. It's just your regular chrome panel. And this is how it looks after the installation. So we use the gloss black material, that way it changes the appearance of the panel. If you like the product, link for the product will be linked below. With that being said, let's get started with the installation video. So before we start with the installation, we need to make sure we prep the panel. So all we need is water and baby shampoo mixed together in a spray bottle. Once you have your solution, spray it onto a clean microfiber towel and just make sure you start removing all the contaminants that the panel may have. And once you're done cleaning the panel, make sure everything's completely clean and dry. That way the adhesive on the film is able to tack down to the panel. Because if it's not dry, then the film will just lift even after you apply heat. So make sure that the panel is completely dry before you start the installation. Okay, so once you finish prepping the panel, now we can move on with the installation. So with this one, we're going to start by grabbing the piece that belongs to this middle section of the panel. And all we need to do is just align it on the top edge. So make sure you align it and it's covering the top section of the panel. Once you place the film, you would then grab your squeegee and start tacking down the film. And make sure you remove all the air bubbles that may be behind the film. And here, we're just going to help the film tack down on the curve, just like that. And you just do the same on this side too. So lift it carefully and help it tack down, going up and down. And then this excess material, you could tuck in underneath, but you only need a certain amount of material to cover the section underneath. The rest would just get trimmed off. So what you can do to help you tack down the film underneath the panel here is apply heat. That way the film is tacking down. But before we do that, like I mentioned, remove all of the air bubbles that are trapped behind the film. So lift the film carefully and remove that air bubble if you have any. So now apply heat to tack it down underneath the panel. Okay, once you apply heat, use your squeegee, start from the middle and just work your way to each section, and that's pretty much it. You should feel it flat, no creases underneath, and the rest of the material we will trim off. So there's a gap between the panel and the plastic trim of the grille. So once you find that gap, you enter your blade and carefully trim off the excess material. And then you can also trim off the excess material in the top section here. Just before you do trim off the excess material, apply heat. That way the film starts forming to the panel, and then we will trim off the excess material. Okay, now we can go ahead and carefully trim off the excess material. So it has a gap too as well. You're going to notice the gaps right here. So just carefully enter your blade and just trim off the excess material. And you'll just do the same for the other side. So once you finish this one, now we can move on with the next piece. So with this one, I'd recommend tacking it down from where you left off, or just giving yourself a little bit more material just to overlap the film just a bit. The reason being is because we want to make sure that everything here as well gets covered. So if you place it like this, you're going to notice it overlaps. Just keep in mind, as long as you cover everything, you should be good. So with this one, you want to start by aligning this section of the film to the curved design of the panel here. So you can place the film here. That way we can have both hands to work with to align the film. So it should be something like this. If you have a little bit of material that goes underneath, that's perfectly fine. But just as long as you have enough material to cover this panel here. So just follow the design as you go. So just be careful not to tear the film. So just take your time as you are applying it until you reach it here. You should have a little bit of material to cover underneath here. So the film will just shape by itself to cover underneath. And now we need to work around this area. So this one, because of the type of curve it is, we are going to apply heat just to help release the tension on the film. But before we do that, let's focus on removing and tacking down the flat area first, which is this design here. So grab your squeegee, start tacking down this section. If you do have a finger, just lift the film carefully and tack it down. So just focus on this middle section first. And now apply heat around the curve to help it tack down like this. Because if we don't apply heat and we just force it, we're going to create wrinkles and probably crease the film. So it's better to just apply heat to release the tension and tack it down little by little. So apply heat, hold the film as you're applying heat, just make sure not to burn your fingers. And now we're slowly starting from the curve, using your finger, helping it tack down. And you just go across, make sure you remove the finger. And you just rinse and repeat. Apply heat, let the film cool off just a bit, that way your finger doesn't get burned as we're passing it down to tack it down. And let it cool off and just apply. Remember, you're only going up to the chrome panel, so everything else that's excess material, you don't have to worry about tacking down. So before we finish this section of the installation, don't forget about the lower section. So this one, just carefully lift the film, apply heat just to help the adhesive activate faster, and we tack it down, remove all the air, and then we can finish off by trimming the material on each side. Make sure to remove all the air and tack it down. Last step, trim off excess material. Now we're moving on to this small section. So the grill has a lot of cutouts, but this one we had to create a different one for just this small section, and then there's going to be a different one for the longer panel here. So just, you could align it from here or just keep it in the middle, doesn't really matter, just as long as you make sure you have enough coverage to cover the chrome on the top and lower section. So you could even bring it just a little bit lower, that way you don't have to do trimming on the top section. All you need to do is tuck in, and then the rest, just bring it down. You can apply heat to help you tack down. Hold it in position with your finger, and then just work your way slowly, little by little, until you cover here. And now we could grab our squeegee to finish it off. And that's it. And now make sure everything is covered, and then we will trim off the excess material. And then we'll move on to this piece here. Just wanted to show you guys how to do this one first. So a small gap right here between the bumper and the chrome panel. And then make an outline and trim off excess material here. And that's it. And now we move on to this small piece. So now we're moving on to this piece. So this one, just make sure when you're installing it, you have enough coverage to cover the top and this section here. So you can adjust it on the inside first. Just make sure you have coverage. So adjust it inside, just like that. And then just slowly help it tack down inside here. Make sure you have coverage. If you need to apply heat to tack it down, you can. But that's pretty much it. And then just help it tack down slowly. And then we could trim off all this excess material we don't need. Just help it tack down first before we trim off. So now we're moving on to the last piece that corresponds to the lower section of the grill. So with this one, align it right on the edge. Just give yourself enough material to cover the panel here. So that should be a good amount. You can always test it out and see if it will cover everything. So that one's good. And just follow the design until you reach it to the other end. So it should be like this. And now all we need to do is use our squeegee to tack it down and remove all the air bubbles that are trapped behind the film. So just grab your squeegee and remove the air bubbles and tack it down. And then we would apply heat once we're done tacking down. Okay, so now we're going to apply heat just to help it tack down underneath the panel to have coverage under here. So apply heat to release the tension, and we're slowly going to start tucking it underneath. Once you apply heat, let the film cool down just a little bit and then tack it down with your squeegee. Excess material we will trim off. Once we covered everything, trim off the excess material. So there's a gap in between this section of the headlight and this section of the panel. The gap's right here. That's where it would insert the blade and trim off the excess material. So just take your time when you do this. Okay, and now we move on to the top section of the grille. So now that we finished the lower section, now we can move on with the top section of the grille. So this one, the same installation as how we did it for the lower piece. Align it on the top area first and just give yourself enough material to cover each corner here. So you could bring it up just a little bit higher just to have more coverage. So like that, and do the same on top here. And now make sure to remove all the air here. So flatten it out and then tack it down. Grab your squeegee and tack it down. Make sure to remove all the air bubbles that are trapped underneath the film. And with this one, you don't have to cover all of the panel underneath here or here. You only need a certain amount and then you should be good. So just finish it off, tack everything down, remove any air bubbles, and then right here you only need a little bit, so just tuck it inside. We don't need to apply heat, and that's it. And now you would just trim off the extra material here. There is a gap here, so just trim it off there and you should be good. And then gap here, and on top, and you're good. So with this one, I would recommend just starting off where you left off. That way you don't have to overlap the film too much, but you can always overlap it. It'll be up to you, personal preference. The way to go about this installation is just making sure you have coverage on the top, just like that. And then the rest should just fall into place. Grab your squeegee, tack it down. And with this one, you could tuck in the film just a little bit since there is a bigger gap. And with this one, because of the design that the Grille has, which is this grid design, we're going to need to apply heat. That way the film tacks down to the panel. Move on to the last piece. Okay, so now we're moving on to the last section here. With this one, just place the film down. That way we have both hands to work with on this edge, and just align the film right on the edge. Just give yourself a little bit of material just to cover the curve on the edge here. So just apply it. Once you have the film tacked down, we're going to lift the film carefully and just align it to the design of the panel. So make sure to be careful not to crease the film and just go with the design until you reach it to this edge. So lift it carefully and follow the design. If you need to readjust it, you can always lift the film carefully and readjust the film. Just make sure not to crease it and it should be good. Once you place it down, we're going to grab our squeegee and tack it down. So make sure to remove all of the air bubbles that are trapped behind the film. And then we'll apply heat. And then once we apply heat to tack down the film to the panel, do the last step, which is trim off the excess material. So once you finish with the whole installation for the front grille, the last thing to do would be to post heat the entire panel. That way we help the adhesive on the film activate faster, and also if there's any film still lifting, we'll help it tack back down with the heat gun. So as you're applying heat, just make sure you go all around the panel. Just take your time, and once you're done with this step, you're done with the installation. Thank you for choosing Bogar Tech Design. As a small business, your support means everything to us. If you loved your product, please drop a review. If you have questions or issues, don't forget to message us via email. Once again, thank you so much for the support from our family to yours. So that concludes the installation video for the front grille chrome delete for the 2021 Kia Seltos. We hope that this video helped you out with the installation. If it did, don't forget to drop a like on the video. Make sure you're subscribed and turn on that notification bell. That way you don't miss any of our upcoming installation videos. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.